I have with me Maharashtra's Cabinet Minister and the Guardian Minister of Mumbai, Aditya Thackeray. Mr. Aditya Thackeray, thank you for speaking to CNN News 18. At a time when the second wave had been quite ravaging, it is the Mumbai model which received a lot of praise. Are there any big takeaways about the Mumbai model?
I think we can be speaking about Mumbai model, Pune model, largely. Along with that, there is the Maharashtra model. I think the Maharashtra model largely focuses on one thing, that is absolute accountability and transparency in our reporting, in our cases, in our testing. Because only when you have absolute true numbers can you strategize ahead and can you plan for the future and for the current time. So I think that is one of the things. Two, all throughout, like I said, having been transparent, having been accountable to the people and to the figures that are coming forward, we have largely focused on a couple of things. One is the medical response to the second wave, and we've already started planning for the third wave, ensuring that you have a bed when you need one, you have oxygenated beds, you have enough ICU beds, you have enough HDU beds. These are some of the things that we've been focusing on, along with a lockdown which was staggered. When we went into a lockdown, the Chief Minister, Mr. Uddhav Thackeray, actually prepared the mindset of the people, the cabinet prepared the mindset of the people, and then we went into a staggered lockdown, giving enough notice, which was well calibrated. So, having gone into a lockdown, which many people are afraid to speak of as the word, even today, it is the only way to safeguard your population. And while we are at that, we have kept our essential services, essential offices, manufacturing industries, exports, imports going on. So, I think a calibrated lockdown, a medical response, and ensuring that awareness is high, accountability is high. That has been the model for Maharashtra, really.
As you speak of lockdown, there is quite some anxiety among people about whether this lockdown will get extended now. The current lockdown is till June 1st and it has already received one extension. Today, there's an important cabinet meeting that's going to happen. Is there any discussion likely on that? Are we going to see the lockdown being extended? What is your message to people of Maharashtra?
I think it's too early to speculate whether the lockdown will be extended or not, because frankly, the only parameter that we are working this on is the health safety concerns of the citizens of Maharashtra. That is the first and foremost duty for us, to safeguard each and every citizen. We're working on vaccination and trying to increase our vaccination. Just yesterday, we crossed the 2 crore mark for Maharashtra, which is a state of almost 12.5 crore people. Along with that, we're going out to the people, asking them to mask up, stay at home as of now. Whatever essential services are going on, or manufacturing industries, we are trying to test them on a weekly basis. Testing has been voluntary since last June, since 2020. So nowhere are we holding back testing. We're in fact asking more and more people to come out and test, because slightly when the numbers go down and the symptomatic cases are on the down, you see that people are not very keen to go out and test. So that is one of the reasons. We are also constantly evolving our medical response, because we have a task force since last year of 11 medical doctors who guide us in terms of the administration. So we're, as the virus mutates, our response has to mutate as well and change our strategy all the time. So that's what we are focusing on. Like I said, lockdown, no lockdown, opening up also will be very slow, like it was last year. But it's too early to say anything. It will only be depending on the band of numbers of COVID cases that we will be hanging around in.
Considering that in the first phase of lockdown, the numbers didn't quite substantially come down for Maharashtra, it started coming down only much later. Do you see any trend in that?
I think the infection, if you see, has a cycle of about 14 days, and largely about 5 to 7 days later, you really see the cases, if they have to turning symptomatic. And this is, of course, an administrative observation, not a medical observation. But when we do that, when there is a high rate of infection in a particular district, there is about 2 to 3 weeks of infection rise and fall. That is where the peak comes and goes down. So in that sense, we're only trying to look at tracing more cases, testing more cases, and trying to quarantine or isolate depending on whether they're symptomatic or non-symptomatic.
Right now, there seem to be two concerns for Maharashtra. One is the spread in the interior parts, the rural areas, the tier 2, tier 3 towns. And secondly, the rising number of cases of mucormycosis or black fungus. Is the state able to deal with both these challenges?
Yes, I mean, of course, the mucormycosis has been a large concern for us in the last 2 weeks, especially when the cases have started rising. We are, like I said, we've got a task force again to interact with all our doctors. Just last week, the Chief Minister, Mr. Uddhav Thackeray, along with the task force doctors, had a discussion with most of the GPs and family doctors across Maharashtra. And this is going to be a continuous process, because now what we believe is there needs to be an awareness amongst the people. And this we've tried in the last 2 or 3 months, where there is a sense of, concern in the people where you get COVID or you get COVID positive as a person, and you try scrambling for remdesivir or Fabiflu or for tocilizumab or for the steroids like dexamethasone and all. But we're only saying that, if you are testing positive, please go to your doctor and get the advice of the doctor and act only and only on that. Don't try to self-treat yourself in that case, or don't try to be home isolated without a doctor's prescription on that, or don't, self-medicate. It has to be as per the advice of the doctor, because every dose is very, very measured and as per the case. It's not something that you can generalize. So one is, of course, awareness, and two is treatment and the medicines available for mucormycosis. So we're looking at both, and constantly, like I said, we are having interactions with the doctors, not just in our COVID care centers, but also family doctors across Maharashtra, where the awareness that they could really raise in terms of reaching your doctor early, getting yourself tested in time, and getting the right treatment. I think these are three primary areas that we're focusing on.
One is awareness, but the other factor is also the lack of availability of essential medicines. What is the government doing about it? May it be the vials for black fungus, may it be drugs like remdesivir, there still continues to be a shortage of the same.
So, like you said, be it for urban areas or rural areas where there's a rising concern in a couple of districts where the case is on the rise, we have constantly focused on two major sectors that have been really helpful in the COVID battle. One is, of course, the public health sector. The other is the private health sector. Now, in the private health sector, of course, some of the hospitals are free, some of the hospitals are charging a base minimal. However, we have been, reaching out to the people and largely putting out the fact of the matter that we need to focus our efforts on basically one sector where everyone can focus their COVID efforts. And we're trying to divert as many people as we can to public healthcare hospitals or even private that are only demarcated for COVID treatment. Now, in these areas, if you look at public hospitals, be it of state government or local self-governments, rural or urban, we've got the availability of remdesivir, of tocilizumab, of everything. And along with that, private hospitals are also trying to procure their own fair share of remdesivir and everything else. But largely throughout, whenever there was also a deficiency in the availability of these medicines, public hospitals and self-governing bodies had it. So we're reaching out to people saying, look, wherever you want to go and treat, make sure that the doctor in charge of your treatment is prescribing, and only then you ask for it, not ask before the doctor tells you. And two, prefer going to a COVID care center which is run by a government hospital, so that the load on the private hospitals with elective surgeries is also less, and we can divide our resources in a better way.
Are you saying there is no shortage of critical drugs for treatment of black fungus as well as for COVID right now in Maharashtra?
There was a sudden demand, which was a sudden spike, and of course, the production has to be matching the requirement now. And most of the companies who are producing it are upping the production. So probably in the next 7 to 10 days, we would see an adequate supply of medicines for that.
There was another point you talked about, Aditya, and that was about vaccinations. Maharashtra became the first state yesterday to cross the milestone of 2 crore vaccinations. But even yesterday, the total number of vaccinations within one day was less than 1 lakh. What is the concern about vaccines? Are there enough vaccines available? And what about the global tenders that the government was to issue?
So, two aspects. One is, of course, be it the frontline workers and healthcare workers, which was then, of course, the band raised to 60 plus, and then 45 plus, and then the deregulated band, which is the mandate of the state government of 18 to 44. Now, in overall vaccination, we've crossed the 2 crore mark yesterday. And like I said, out of 12 crore population, 2 crore mark, we're the leading state in vaccination in terms of the large state as well, in terms of course, the absolute numbers as well. Having said that, we've set a record last month where we vaccinated 5 lakh people in a day. Now we are scrambling for more vaccines. We're in constant talks with the government of India. We're also in talks with private producers. The state, through a cabinet decision, the Chief Minister, Mr. Uddhav Thackeray, Deputy Chief Minister, Mr. Ajit Pawar, Revenue Minister, Mr. Balasath Thorat, all of them and all of us as cabinet ministers, we got a cabinet decision passed saying for 18 to 44, that is the mandate of the state is willing to pay a one-shot single check to procure 12.5 crore vaccines, because we've got 6 crore people, 6.5 crore people in the bracket of 18 to 44. Roughly 2 shots would be around 12 and a half crores. So we are ready to procure them in one shot. Having said that, there is no company right now in India, at least, that is capable of production to that limit. They're all both the companies we've been speaking to constantly. They're upping their production in the next 1 or 2 months. There are other states as well in the race. They're all wanting to procure vaccine, and it's a great thing because vaccine hesitancy is slowly going away. People want to take vaccines, and every Indian has to get vaccinated in time. Only when every Indian is vaccinated, all of us are safe. Having said that, we're also looking at global tenders. Cities like Mumbai and Pune have put out global tenders. I cannot speak much about them when they're in the tender process because, as a minister, I do not want to bias the process towards anyone or, create biases out there. We're absolutely hopeful that we might get more vaccines in the months to come. We are also, preparing a roadmap for our own selves in terms of how to vaccinate most of the people. Because see, today there are also demands coming in from certain sections of the society for categorizing themselves as frontline workers or healthcare workers, or prioritizing them. Now that would only be solved when we have more vaccines, and the moment we have more vaccines, we have a plan to vaccinate the entire state in a time-bound manner, quickly and efficiently, so that we can be safer and prepared for the third wave.
So right now you're saying till some companies respond, your hands are tied and you cannot really talk of time frames with respect to vaccinations for the entire state of Maharashtra.
Exactly, but we are hopeful because everyone's been speaking to the state of Maharashtra, and everyone has promised to up the production very soon.
Are you in talks with any companies? Any details about that?
I believe the health department has got a couple of queries from multiple companies, and they would be, of course, wanting to go ahead with the government of Maharashtra and probably other states across India.
Also, BMC became the first civic body to issue global tenders, but for quite some time they did not get any response. Have there been any responses to that global tender at least now?
Like I said, they've got a couple of informal responses because primarily, again, when we speak about global tenders, the global players want to make everything properly safe and secure before they enter a tender. So I think they have been speaking and talking to the BMC and the health authorities of the government of India, state government, and the BMC. Um, the moment we have vaccines in our hands, and global tenders an effort to get maximum vaccines for the city or the state, and the moment we have them, especially for a city of Mumbai, as a guardian minister, I can say that we can vaccinate the mandate that we've got, 18 to 44, in 4 weeks flat.
One thing that is a consistent concern and something that the chief minister and your father as well spoke to the prime minister about was ramping up the production of vaccines and for local companies or institutes to be given permission as well as the formula licenses to manufacture these vaccines. Now, this is something that even Union Minister Nitin Gadkari spoke about today. Hopkins Institute was given permission and the government openly thanked the union government for this. Do you think more permissions need to come through in order to ease this, lack of supply of vaccines here?
Look, I mean, when we speak about preparing for the third wave, we have to look at the fact that when we were looking at the second wave, the first wave, really, we had about, in last September, we had about 2,000 cases, if we take Mumbai as an example, at our peak time. The second wave, which was April, May, March, April, May, we had 11,000 cases on 4th of April. And that is multiple times of the first wave. So if you have to prepare for the third wave, I am not putting out a very doomsday picture or a pessimist picture, but we have to prepare for all possibilities. And for that, be it any drug, which is say remdesivir or anything which is in the treatment protocol, or be it any vaccine, we have to ramp up the production, be it through multiple licenses or the same company or the same people who have the licenses today. However it is, but we have to ramp up our production, and we've got to support these companies to ramp up their production because we're a country of 1.3 billion people, and to even be self-sufficient in vaccines and in medicines, we've got to be having a better supply chain and more transparency in how it is supplied to all states equitably.
Adar Poonawalla has also said that realistic time frame for vaccination of the entire population would be around 2 to 3 years. Is it only due to lack of available vaccines, or is it because of the numbers per se?
Now, in terms of, of course, he must have gone into the depths of it, obviously going into production details. But from a perspective of administration and administering the jab to people, I think if we have planning at a local level, and what Chief Minister also has written to the Prime Minister about, is about having a state-wise app because a lot of people are also facing difficulty today with the COVID app, even though it is, well made. We have, like I said, crores of people trying to log in at the same time, and sometimes it crashes. If we have state-wise apps where we can share the data on a day-to-day basis with the central government, or we can make our own app and share the data, it'll be helping us better to prioritize our vaccination drives each day and go forward in a better way. So then we can reduce the time, because this has to be on a war footing basis. We cannot be lax on vaccination or be easy on vaccination at all.
The apps and the kind of response that we've seen on Twitter, where at least for Mumbai, when slots get opened up, they're taken within a few seconds, and a lot of people have taken to the social media to talk about it. Is there any redressal, grievance redressal mechanism for this?
It's a great thing when there's a response like that, and also little bad thing also, because of course the great thing is that the people want to take vaccines. They're not shying or fearing the vaccine. They're accepting the fact that vaccine is the only protection ahead in terms of this whole COVID game. The of course inconvenience part is largely something that we are obviously looking into, and we've written to the center for, because if we can have a statewide app and state-wise app for each and every state, I think it'll be easier for all of us as states to plan it better. Like we did for Mumbai City today, that for 3 days we've kept it only for the second dose for 60 plus, for people with different abilities. We've gone forward and done that for walk-ins. Now another thing we're planning for Mumbai is 227 centers for 227 municipal wards. We're also planning drive-in in each ward for senior citizens. The more decentralization that happens, the easier it is for us, because the crowding is much lesser. But if we can plan this through an app, I think it'll be much better for us, because the intimation to the people will be much more efficient than just social media.
You also touched on the third wave. What is the roadmap? What is the state of preparation for the third wave? Especially the chief minister has also spoken about it. And there was a bit of criticism when the second wave hit, that it was possibly that the state government would have done much better. In that view, how do you look at any predictions? What are the predictions for the third wave, and what is the preparation for it?
So of course, the second wave came as a huge shocker to the country, because the sheer number of people who got exposed and getting COVID, one of them myself, it was of course huge. And the type of strains that are coming in, and we're reading about them, it is quite scary. But the moment we hit the peak at the second wave, the chief minister really started planning for the third wave, because A, the quantum of cases, B, the type of cases, and three, the response from the state has to be constantly updated. Now, in this, for the third wave preparation for our state, really, we are looking at three things. One is a medical response, the other is a corporate response, third is a civic response. In the medical response, really, we're looking at, again, capacity augmentation of the beds, like you saw in the second wave as well. Because we hadn't shut down our jumbo centers and COVID care centers across the state, almost everyone who needed a bed got the bed at the right time, and the bed they needed, like be it oxygenated beds or ICU beds. There was 1 or 2 days that we came on a thin edge with ICU beds, but within that week, we've increased the capacity of ICU beds, and we have a buffer now, which is a good buffer. We cannot remain satisfied with that. We cannot remain happy with that. We're like, again, I can give you an example as the Guardian Minister of Mumbai, and me with my colleague Mr. Aslam Sheikh, and the Mayor Ms. Kishori Pednikar, the Municipal Commissioner Mr. Chehel. All of us have been planning to increase our bed capacity at least by 7,000 for oxygenated beds in for the third wave. So we would probably touch about 45 to 50,000 beds formally in hospitals and informally in COVID care centers and nursing homes. We're ramping up at least 2,000 more ICU beds and as many ventilator beds as we can. One of the demographies that has not been affected largely till now, and hopefully should never be affected, is the babies, the kids, and the teenagers, the age groups between 0 to 16. And we're seeing cases now coming up for kids who are around 6 months old, 18 months old. So we're preparing for NICUs, pediatric care. We've also formed a task force of pediatric doctors looking at their response to COVID. So this would be one of the most important things for the third wave as a medical response. Of course, genomic testing, ramping up testing, asking more people to test, that is one. In terms of corporate response, all the corporates, especially I would particularly stress on the private-public partnership that has come forward in COVID response. All the corporates have largely helped us as the state of Maharashtra and across the country as well, for various states and the country, to give the corporate CSR, or helping us with ventilators, with ambulances, with COVID care centers. So they've poured their hearts out and souls out to really support the state initiatives. But we're also working with them to see how we can better manage COVID in the corporate sector while they keep their manufacturing, export, import, corporate offices on, and public offices on. So we're working with them for better COVID appropriate behavior and SOPs in on their own campuses. And the third thing would be a civic response. Like we've started this whole new campaign about if you're wearing a cloth mask, you have to double mask yourself. If you're wearing an N95, a single mask is fine. Largely stay at home, but if you have to step out, how do you behave? Where do you go? What do you do? I think the corporate and medical response is something that can be managed. Civic response is something where we require larger civic discipline and adherence to norms that are COVID appropriate. So I think these are three things that we've started working on. Things like do schools open up? Do colleges open up? Mental health care is going to be a larger concern. Anxiety is going to be a larger concern. With people being at home, lifestyle diseases are coming up. So these are some of the things that we've worried about and working on.
At this point in time, does it look like schools and colleges will possibly remain shut at least till the end of this year?
Unfortunately, it seems like it because, even though we might think of looking at, say, schools once a week or, changing the patterns, trimming down the syllabus, parents also less likely to send their kids to schools, even though they understand and realize that the kids staying at home are getting too isolated, that feeling of being in a school, stepping out to a playground, interacting with kids has, gone down to zero. But yeah, safety concerns exist and only on safety concerns can we move ahead.
One last question, Aditya Thackeray, and this is about Dharavi model, which had received international acclaim during the first wave. Even during the second wave, it is quite evident that Dharavi has been in control. What is the secret of success in Dharavi? Because that was a major area of concern. It's Asia's largest slum.
So be it called the Dharavi model, be it called the Worli model, be it called Mumbai, Pune, Maharashtra model, the secret is just one thing: don't keep secrets. Try to share as much data as possible, try to analyze as much data as possible, trace as many cases. We've been telling all our officers, we've been telling all elected representatives, there is no glory in having lesser numbers by hiding them. You won't be able to restrict COVID by hiding the COVID cases. In fact, the more COVID cases you can identify, your number might sound higher on paper, but that is actually a success because you are identifying more people who have COVID infection, be it symptomatic or non-symptomatic, which is when you can trace the high-risk contact group, stop the spread at the second round of infection, get them quarantined, get them isolated if they test positive, help them reach a doctor faster, help them recover faster, and get home faster. I think that is the success. The secret is don't keep any secrets in COVID cases.
Aditya Thackeray, thank you for your time. Thank you for speaking to CNN News 18.
Thank you.